Hello, everyone. Give me just a second. I forgot to open up music. Where is the music? Hello, Julie, Kazune, Lobsel, Daniel, welcome. Been a minute since we've done a reading because I've had wild weekend going on. But we're back, and of course with something new. Here's our playlist. All right. We're reading a little bit of a experiment today because I translated... Ooh, don't do that. I translated something, which is amazing. I still can't believe I did that. And I wanted to share what I translated with y'all. I can't words anymore. I can't because of all this shit I've been doing. Let's see if that makes the music work properly. Do you work now? Yes, you do. Awesome. We're going to read a story called Onmyoji, which is also known as the Yin Yang Master. That's what it kind of means-ish. Same idea. The symbols mean that in Chinese, if I understand correctly. Shi is master. Anyway, I forgot to move this. It has been a day. Oh no, what's happening? There we go. Hey, Artemis! So yeah, we're gonna read this story, which is the inspiration behind some films. Like we recently watched on the Discord the Dream of Eternity, Yin Yang Master, Netflix movie that's really good. There's another one called Yin Yang Master, which is kind of sort of based on these books in a different way. There's a video game based on the books, and then the movie's based on the video game based on the books. And then there's these two older Japanese films, which I have around here somewhere. Called Onmyoji 1 and 2 that are based on the books. And for some reason, even though these films I think did okay in America or whatever, the books never got translated over here, which seems like such a shame to me. And I couldn't find any fan translations, and I was like, that means I'm gonna have to do it. Dang it. I'm gonna have to do this because no one else has. Or at least nobody that has shared it that I've found. Possibly someone has translated and just not been put on the internet. Alright. So, let's go to where I put it. It's still in the works, obviously, because I'm still learning the language, and I'm sure that as I get better at Japanese, I will edit it. But I wanted to share what I wrote, because I want people to enjoy this series. It's very good, and I love it. Kazune says it's one of their favorite things. Yes, Onmyoji is very interesting, and this book in particular is really cool because it's a mix of fiction and history, because a lot of the stuff they're referencing is stuff that happened, and people that were actually real people. But, you know, did it happen this way? There was probably no magical spirits or nothing, but like the assassination of this certain character and a person who was exiled for it, all that stuff happened for real. I'll explain a little more as we get to it, but it's just very interesting how they've blended. The author, Yume Makura Baku, has blended a lot of mythology and, well, maybe not mythology, but like folklore and history and magic together in a really interesting way. So here we go. Onmyoji, the Yin Yang Master. Chapter 1. Oh, I'm so nervous. I can't... This feels weird because I'm technically not reading something I wrote, but I did write it. Oh, man. Listen to the story of a strange and mysterious man. A story of a man who floats through life as a cloud on the wind through the empty night sky. Clouds at night don't look as if they've changed from moment to moment, but if you watch closely, you'll see they change before you realize it. And though it is the same cloud, you could never prove it. This is the story of just such a man. His name was Abe no Seimei, an Onmyoji born around the 21st year of Enji, under the rule of Emperor Daigo. I should open up my footnotes. I have 30 footnotes. Oh man, the wrong link. Why are you so dumb, Link? I'm gonna have to redo all my links, aren't I? Well, that stinks. I'll have to remember what my footnotes were. This is around the year 800 CE. Somewhere around there is the time period. The years of his birth and death are unknown, but they're unrelated to our story. It might be better not to clarify such details and get to the interesting parts of his life. There are so many, I can't decide which story to tell. I think I will let my pen run free, writing what comes naturally. That seems the most suitable way to tell the tale of such a man. The Heian period, an era of truly dark days, a time when certain people believed in the existence of the supernatural. It was an age when people living in the gloom of the Emperor's city, rather than the depths of the forest or faraway mountains, shared the same streets as the Oni and the Mononoke, sometimes even sharing the same roof, even the same breath. The Heian period is kind of a larger couple hundred years of history, generally viewed as a high point of Japanese culture. Like, shit was going great. They had a lot of stories and art and stuff that was thriving. And in this version, it's a dark day because everything, like, all these monsters are around. I think that's fascinating that it's the height of culture, but also there are monsters. He does a lot of juxtaposing the light and dark together in interesting ways. Oni are kind of like Japanese ogres, big monsters with clubs. Mononoke is a general term for vengeful spirits. Onmyoji, yin-yang master. In plain English, they might be called a fortune teller. You could call them an illusionist or a shaman, but none of these would be quite right. An Onmyoji observes the phases of the celestial sphere and the phases of human lives. By studying the movements of the stars, you can tell the future, command illusions, teach people lessons with spells, or even curse them to die. Power unseen by the eye. Abe no Seimei was intimately familiar with fate, souls, yokai, and such, and even had the capability to control such spirits. An Onmyoji could hold an official position in the palace, and there was even a bureau of divination within the inner court. Seimei himself was awarded the rank of junior 4th rank lower grade by the imperial court. The highest rank was the Minister of State, who served near the Emperor. Below him were the left and right internal ministers. The Chunagon and Dainagon ranked below them. Yet despite his lower rank, it seemed Seimei's voice had a great deal of power in court, due to his innate talent. In the Konjaku Monogatari, there are some interesting stories about this Abe no Seimei. Konjaku Monogatari is a ancient Japanese text that has like 1,000 stories in it, and it includes a lot of mythology, folklore, historical characters. So this is a real Japanese text that he's referencing to talk about the historical figure and things that the text says about him. According to the text, it's said Seimei was trained in the arts of Onmyodo from an early age by his master Kamo no Tadayuki. Even as a child, Seimei revealed a glimpse of the incredibly skilled Onmyoji he would eventually become. It seems he truly was a genius. In one story from the collection, it said there was a night when Seimei was young, when his master left for Shimogyo. Shimogyo, by the way, is an area of town south of the Imperial Palace. To get there, you'd pass beneath the Suzaku Gate, cross the avenue to the Rasho Gate on the southern edge of the city, a distance of about 20 miles. Hey, Katsuki and Palab, hello. When is the next TGCF stream? Soonish. I'm kind of just alternating stories as we go, and because my schedule's been so wild lately, I don't know when it will be. But we are going to be reading more stories again this week. I've just not been doing well, unfortunately. The end of this month, my life should go back to normal, so everybody just cross your fingers and toes and hope for the best. Kamo no Tadayuki called a carriage. I'm not certain what kind it was, but it was likely an ox-driven cart. While the text doesn't mention why he was traveling at night, it's safe to assume he was going to visit a certain woman. Seimei was among his companions that night, walking alongside the cart while his master rode inside. He wasn't the only one. There would have been at least 2 others, one to lead the ox and one to carry the lantern. The text doesn't mention his age, but I imagine Seimei was in his early teens at the time. The older companions would have been wearing hitatare, but at his age, Seimei would have been barefoot and wearing old-fashioned hakama, hand-me-downs from older students. However, even when wearing second-hand clothes, the brilliance of the man shone like ice in his frozen expression. Hitatare is basically the uniform of an Onmyoji. If you've seen the movies, it's the black hat, the white robe. This is basically saying he's too young to be fully fledged, but he's still more talented than his seniors, as we're going to see. Certainly, he was handsome, but he must have resembled most boys his age. I imagine he was the kind of boy who from time to time would say something strange or behave as such that he seemed wise beyond his years. His teacher might have caught a glimpse of this unfathomable skill in the boy's eyes from time to time, a skill no others seemed to have. However, you might expect the unknown from him. It was because of this incident this night while visiting the courtesan that Tadayuki recognized the brilliant talent within his pupil. I am guessing about the courtesan line. There's two lines that reference why they're leaving out at night. For one, it says they are leaving at night. For another, it says he's visiting a familiar woman, and then it says he's visiting a princess. But princess is sometimes slang for courtesan. So I think he's going to bang down, is my assumption. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm guessing. Traveling to visit a woman at night, probably what they're doing. Let's return to the story. The ox-driven cart was approaching the outskirts of the city. Inside, Tadayuki was fast asleep. Seimei, walking beside the ox cart, looked ahead and saw a strange shape in the shadows. Was it not a frightening demon stalking towards the front of the cart? Looking at his companions, it seemed as if only Seimei could see these creatures. Quickly, Seimei threw open the ox cart's window. "Tadayuki-sama!" He woke his master from sleep and hurriedly told him what he'd just seen. Tadayuki awoke, pushed his head out the window, and sure enough saw the demons approaching. "Stop, Wateru!" he cried out to his companions who were leading the way. "Hide behind the cart! Hold your breath and don't move, don't make a sound." Tadayuki used his skills to make the cart and his companions invisible to the demons' eyes, and the creatures passed by unawares. It was after this that Tadayuki began keeping Seimei close to his side. It's said that Tadayuki taught Seimei everything he knew in the art of Onmyoji. It's like copying the water in a bottle, the Konjaku Monogatari says. Tadayuki no Kamo was the water, and his knowledge and skill of Onmyoji passed to the bottle of Abe no Seimei. This seems to be a Buddhist line, a Buddhist I could not find anything that made it very clear what exactly it is, but I think that the context makes it pretty, like, the knowledge of the teacher is passing to the student the way that you pour water from one bottle into another bottle. So he's learning from his master. Look on the bright side, we're getting... Oh, yeah! I forgot! That's another thing to look forward to. SMT3 coming out. Yay! After his master's death, Seimei's mansion was located north of Tsuchimikado Road and east of West Kyogoku Road. Standing at Shishenden Hall in the center of the inner palace, the mansion was in the direction of the northeast, the direction of the ox tiger, that is, the direction of demons. All that basically says, if you look at a map of the imperial palace, his house is here. And the reason for that is, northeast is considered the direction of demons. It's unlucky, it's not natural. So they're associating our hero Seimei with the unnatural. Enryakuji Temple on Mount Hiei in the north is to the northeast of Heiankyo, which is the city we're in. And there's a ceremonial room in the inner palace that's in the far northeast. The layout of these two locations is of course not by chance. The layout of Heiankyo and the structure of the imperial palace was designed as such to protect the Emperor Kanmu from the vengeful spirit of Prince Sawara, who was disinherited and died as a consequence of his involvement with the assassination of Fujiwara no Tanetsugu. That's why, after only 10 years, the emperor abandoned the capital of Nagaoka Kyo and began construction of Heiankyo. That's a bunch of history in the real world, some of that stuff that did happen. Prince Sawara was a guy, member of the imperial court family, who was blamed or in some way implicated in the assassination of a different guy, and he wasn't killed, but he was exiled. But on his way to exile, he mysteriously died, and there were a lot of rumors and fears that his spirit was going to come back, and for that reason, they moved the capital city, because they were so worried about this guy haunting them. And all that history is going to come up in this book eventually. But those things happened before Seimei was born, and these events aren't directly involved in this story. Let's return to the story of Konjaku Monogatari. Now, Seimei was in his residence that stood in the direction of demons, and an old Buddhist priest came to see him. 2 children accompanied him, both around 10 years of age. "What kind of business did you have?" Seimei began. "I live in Harima province," the old priest replied. His name was Tomawari, and once he introduced himself, he began to speak. He'd always wanted to learn Onmyoji. According to what he'd heard, Seimei was the best at what he did. Even if it was only a short lesson, the priest expressed his desire to learn the laws of yin and yang from Seimei. Ha! Seimei laughed internally as he listened to the old priest's words. This priest is wise in Onmyoji. He must have come to test me. Seimei realized the old monk was skilled in the arts and must have come to test his skills. That meant that most likely the 2 children with him were shikigami. I see. I think Seimei must have smiled in his heart. What is a shikigami? They are also called shikijin or shikioji in the modern schools of Onmyoji, such as the Izanami style of shikoku. They are spirits, which are invisible to the ordinary eye. They aren't that high-quality spirits. Rather, they are somewhat crude. Oh-ho! He nodded. Isn't this quite good? Seimei was impressed because the shikigami the priest had brought with him could not have been summoned by an unskilled Onmyoji. I have heard your request. However, I have some matters I must attend to today. Seimei asked the old priest to return once he had chosen a suitable day for it. As he began speaking, the priest put his hands in his sleeves and cast a small curse with hand signs. Very well, another day. Then he rubbed his hands together, placed them on his forehead, and left. Seimei, however, did not move. There he remained with his arms crossed, admiring the sky. It wasn't long before the priest was seen walking through the open gate. While walking down the road, the old priest peeked into places people could be hiding, such as within a carriage. He came before Seimei once again. Actually, the 2 boys who accompanied me seem to have disappeared. Will you not return them? Return them? Seimei replied with feigned ignorance. I've not done anything. The temple monk knows that well. He's been with me all this time. How could I hide 2 children when I've just been standing here? The old priest bowed after hearing him. Forgive me, they are not actually children, but shikigami who serve me. I've been attempting to test your power, but you are far beyond my capabilities. Please forgive me. You're free to test me, but I'm not fooling you. Seimei's tone of voice suddenly changed, and a less elegant, if not vulgar, smile spread across his face. He smiles vulgarly quite a lot. That's like 3 times the author says that. I love that, because the first book so far seems to very much just be the first movie. Exactly. It's definitely based on the first book, and the guy that plays him in the first movie definitely is very good at the vulgar smile. He does the character very well. Under his breath, he murmured a small spell. All of a sudden, 2 boys ran out into the yard, each carrying sake and snacks in either hand. I took care of them. It was quite entertaining. Please, take them back with you. It would have been interesting if Seimei had said something mysterious then, but if he did, it was not written in the Konjaku Monogatari. The 2 children returned to their master, who was thoroughly impressed. It's a simple thing to summon shikigami for long periods of time, but hiding the shikigami someone else has summoned is another thing entirely. His face was red from excitement. He insisted on becoming Seimei's disciple, writing his name on a piece of wood and presenting it to him. Writing your own name and passing it to another is a rare thing among humans who deal with the supernatural. Giving one's name is the same as giving one's life to the other person. This is a practice that has to do with something called nafuda. It's like a wooden plaque that if you were a student, your name would be on it, and it would hang in like the school that you studied at. Basically, it's saying he really respects him and wants to study with him. Oh, I'm out of water. The text of the Konjaku Monogatari continues. One morning, Abe no Seimei went to visit a Buddhist high priest. Many young nobles and monks were crowded around the man. Everyone had heard the rumors about Seimei, so naturally the conversation turned towards discussing his skills. You can command shikigami, but can you kill with them? One man asked candidly. Don't demand the secrets of Onmyoji so impudently. He eyed the crowd and watched with amusement as his words spread horror through them. No, it is not so easy to kill people. With a smile, he reassured them. Well, there are many ways to kill, he added casually, perhaps in a grim manner. Do you mean it's easy to kill an insect? One official asked. Yes, well, as Seimei answered, 5 to 6 small creatures swept into the garden. Can you kill one of them? Yes, however, killing aside, can you? Killing it is easy, but can you revive it? Nonsensical killing is a crime. That one! I want to see! Me too! Me too! So the public gathered round him, their eyes all shining with curiosity, eager to see if the rumors of Seimei's skills were true. If Seimei were to leave without presenting his skill, then there would be talk of how he really wasn't as talented as everyone said. Seimei, scowling at the sea of faces before him, stretched out his right hand and murmured, "Forgive me this sin." Stepping towards the edge of the temple path, Seimei plucked a green leaf hanging from a willow tree and casually pinched it between the tips of his pale fingers. He threw the leaf into the air with incredible speed and cast a spell. The leaf leapt into the air and gently swooped down upon one of the creatures. It was crushed and killed quickly, flesh and viscera scattering around. The Konjaku Monogatari says, the monks went pale when they saw this and were terribly afraid. It seems that when Seimei was alone in his mansion, he'd summon his shikigami. When no one was there, the shutters would open and close. When no one was there, the gate would open and shut. It seems that strange and wondrous things surrounded Abe no Seimei. If you examine other documents about Abe no Seimei, such as the story of the Buddhist priest and the small creatures, it's surprising to people how arbitrarily he uses his techniques. It seems he enjoyed that sort of thing. Instead of putting on airs, he preferred to be like a child. As you can imagine, this man named Abe no Seimei, while serving in the palace, became fairly used to being the topic of gossip. He would have been a handsome young man, tall, fair-skinned, with bright eyes. If a refined man walked by in the imperial court, the woman would certainly watch and talk about him. I love the line that describes how beautiful he is, because it's hard to, in English, describe with such intensity how beautiful the Japanese does. Like, every other word, literally, it's like, skin fair, eyes bright, beautiful, graceful, handsome man. It's very over the top. No, I think it's tall man, fair skin, bright eyes, beautiful, graceful, handsome man. He must have received at least 1 or 2 lines of amorous poetry from various noble women. High-class people aren't clever, thinking of it. The first lines of their poems were blunt and futile, as if they were shouting, "Hey!" at the emperor. What a great line. They suck so bad at poetry, it's like they shouted, "Hey!" at the emperor. Lips that express a refined smile can also, at other times, smirk in a vulgar way. To be an Onmyoji, one must understand the other side of reality, and to be employed by the palace, one must be well educated. He could recite Chinese poetry from memory, had a talent for singing, and I imagine he must have been skilled in 1 or 2 instruments, perhaps the biwa or the flute. Biwa's like a guitar, it's not a guitar, but it's a stringed instrument. I think the Heian period must have been an era of elegance and darkness. And I shall tell you the story of a man who floated through that period, through the elegance and grace, the sorrow and the shadows, like a cloud floating on the wind. This took me 5 days. I was just like, oh my god. My family was out of town all weekend, except for me and my mom, who, the house is being shared with some extended family right now, so we just had the place to ourselves again, and we just sat and watched movies, and I just worked on translating this all weekend. I was obsessed, because it's so well written, it's really good. I don't know how well I, brought across what the Japanese was saying, because I'm very new at this. I have to use a machine to change the text into Romaji, and then what words I recognize I can figure out. The endings, the word endings are what really get me. I'm bad at following those, but I think I'm getting better at it as I translate it, because it makes you practice, to remember this means this and this means that. Japanese, the words change based on tense, if it's polite, if it's a command, if it's a question, the ending of the words are different, and you can even combine them together to mean different things, and so it becomes very complex, whereas my experience with Chinese has been a lot more straightforward. I haven't found stuff where, like, tense changes tend to be a thing. I don't know if maybe it is and I just haven't found it. I don't know. But it was definitely quite the experience, and I've been enjoying myself. I will do more of this. I'll probably wait and read 2 chapters next time, since they are kind of short. But I was just too excited that I had finished something like this for the first time. And I've translated things in the past, but in a general sense, not like trying to make it actually sound good in English. You know, translating interviews so that I could use them in research, books that I need for research, that kind of thing, not fiction that I intended to make sound pretty. But I love this universe, I love these movies, and I want the books to be available to people and more people to enjoy these things. There's 17 books, y'all, and they've never been brought over here. I don't get it. All the freaking love for Japanese supernatural shit over here, and they haven't brought these over. It's a crime. Thanks for listening. I know this is a short reading, and I haven't been doing readings the last couple days, but I've had a lot going on, and schedule will probably continue to be wild for the rest of the month, until my family moves out and life settles again. Yeah, tomorrow I hope to do a normal reading of something, Heaven Official's Blessing or Scumville. I'll have to see which one we read farthest back. One of the various novels we read. I'm going to stream Silent Hill 4 in 30 minutes, an hour-ish. Probably an hour. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.